We run on EOS.
Yeah, this is going to be our 4th year to do this conference, and it gets better every single year. Last year, and we're rebranding this to make sure all the branding is consistent across all the EOS conferences that are out there. And last year, I think it was called Strong in Six, which even if you ran on EOS or you're familiar with some of the terminology, the Strong in Six was kind of confusing for some, and it was being strong in the 6 key components of EOS.
Right.
So yeah, so this is we've made sure we've updated the name to We Run on EOS, and man, we're excited. We're excited to have you there as one of our title sponsors, and then actually doing a workshop ahead of time. So, a 2-hour workshop prior to the main event, where we'll have 2 expert EOS speakers, but Jill Young and Leonard Linsky. And for the audience, it's going to be really any business owner out there that just is not getting everything they want from their business. This is the event for them. And it doesn't matter if you've never heard of EOS, you don't know what it is, you think it's a software that you download, which it's not. It doesn't matter what you think about it. Leonard and Jill are going to do an awesome job explaining. Jill, I can't think of someone that has more energy than Jill and more
Yeah,
enthusiasm.
Jill's great. She's been with a
She
couple
is,
of our customers.
oh man, she is so awesome. I can't think of anyone better than to deliver what we call the talk. And it's really, if you're not even familiar with EOS, go to her breakout because she will explain what EOS is, what it looks like to be strong in all 6 of the key components. And you will know by the time you walk out of there, is this something for me or not? I got a preview of Leonard's breakout session, and man, it is awesome. His is called, drive engagement with EOS tools. And so he really, and you can hear the passion coming from Leonard's voice when he talks about vision and how you got to use the vision, your core values and your core focus to make the decisions in your company. But he explains what we call the EOS matrix, like how everything, all the tools fit into the matrix, and how it's not just one tool, it's using all of them together to help run your company and get everything you want out of it. And Leonard does such an awesome job explaining that. After I coach this stuff, and after listening to Leonard and stuff too, I was even more pumped up to tell more people about it. So
Yeah, one of the things I like about EOS is it gives you a language to talk about the business that's simple and that's consistent, so everybody understands what each thing means. They understand what's important to the business and how the business runs. I think that's one of the aspects of EOS that I don't hear pumped up enough is your entire organization understands how the business runs, which, is one of the powerful things about having a good business operating system.
man, I can't wait to hear your breakout. I mean, even just the title of it, leveraging neuroscience for faster results.
I'm
Boy, that's an
excited about
awesome,
it.
that's an
Yeah,
awesome title.
we get really passionate about you can work with your brain or you can ignore your brain and kind of work against it. And things just go easier when you
Yeah.
help your brain. So when you're out in the wild, and I know you help a lot of companies, a lot of different types of companies, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see when companies start their EOS journey? Like, are there common pitfalls that you find yourself coaching people out of continually?
Yeah. So the things I see the most, one of them is right after Focus Day. We teach a couple of tools in Focus Day, the accountability chart and rocks and scorecard, and one of them's the level 10 meeting or meeting pulse. But
Mhm.
inside the meeting pulse is the level 10 meeting. And sometimes people come to us because there's just so much they're working on. They're like, I don't have enough time in the day. I need to figure this stuff out. We need to put processes in place. They know they need something. They just don't know what they need. And then I hit them with, hey, if you're not doing this already, you're going to meet once a week for 90 minutes with your leadership team. And I could sometimes see the heads explode. But like, I don't have enough time in the day as it is. You want me to take another 90 minutes out of my week? And if there's one thing I kind of get pushback on early on, that's probably it. And I tell you, by vision building day 2, after they've run, a handful of these level 10 meetings, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And what's funny, what's we've got to be careful for sometimes is that once they start running the level 10 meetings, they're like, we're running on EOS. This is great. And I'm like, man, that is
Mhm.
just one of the tools in the toolbox. Just wait till we do everything else. And yeah, but that's one thing. Once I get resistance on it first, and once they start doing it, they absolutely love it. And then it's like, and then it has to trickle down through the accountability chart. So anyone who sits in the seat who has direct reports is doing a level 10 meeting with their direct reports.
Yeah, that really mirrors what I see.
Yeah.
It's often the CEO or the visionary who lays down the law and says, "We're going to do this," and then within however many weeks, suddenly they're big believers and they want to go cascade it to their teams as well. Seen the
Yeah.
same thing, and it's a solid. I mean, it's one of my, I'd say one of my favorite tools for sure in the EOS toolbox because it fits so well with how to run a good meeting. When before EOS was around, when I was in management consulting, it was very close to how we ran meetings. Let's review our numbers. Let's review our targets. Are there any big headlines? Did we get our to-dos done? Do we have any issues? And with mutual friend, Dipesh Patel,
Oh, yeah.
for his company, CoPoint, they just had like one of their best level 10s ever. And they're all management consultants. And it took them a
Mhm.
little while to embrace the format. And then like now they're pros and everybody's into it and rating their meetings highly. It's just neat to see.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, so that's one of the tools that's just really good. I think early on too, I see a lot of companies struggle with setting really good rocks as well.
Yeah.
A lot of them have heard the SMART acronym, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And they've heard it before. Sometimes some of the people on the leadership team haven't. And so we work through setting rocks SMART so you know what done looks like. But I'll tell you, I have one of my newer clients. They're out of Houston. We just had their vision building day 2, where their first set of rocks was set in focus day. And so we looked at so we looked to see how many were completed and how they would grade the last 90 days, which was really 60 days. I didn't tell them that when we set the rocks. I'm like, hey, we're setting 90-day rocks. And then I like threw a wrench in there and said, oh, by the way, these are only 60 days. Man, they had over 80% completion on that, and they set really good rocks, but they came out strong out of the gate and did it, and, man, I can't wait to see where they are 3, 4 3 quarters in and at the annual.
What do you feel like goes into a good rock? Because I see
Really no one
smart
really.
rocks that aren't, they're smart, but they're not smart, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, when I see some of those, and I'm questioning whether they're, 1, written smart, like, how do you know what done looks like? And then, is this part of your normal day-to-day job, or is this something outside of the ordinary that you're gonna stretch that like, is this really the most important thing?
Mhm.
3 to 5 things. Most important thing to get done in the next 90 days. And, yeah, at the company level, and that's why we set aside, a couple of hours when we get into kind of full execution mode where I'm running the quarterlies and we're going through setting rocks. And the reason we set a couple hours aside is because there is some back and forth on, is this the most important thing, the few things at the company level, first for the company rocks, and then at the individual level, is this the right rock? Is it written smart? And so it just takes practice to learn how to write those. And then, a couple of quarters when you're grading the quarter, when you're looking back at the last 90 days, and you're like, hey, maybe I got all my rocks done, but I don't feel like we got everything we could have out of the quarter. Well, those probably weren't stretching you enough on there. And I've had some companies that, man, they shot for the moon. And even though they had a 50% ish rock completion, they still graded their quarter an A because, man, they got a lot of really good stuff done, even though it was only half of the stuff they wanted to. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the powerful things about setting any form of goals, you can learn so much in the process. And
mhm.
if you're actually improving the business, even if you don't hit the moon, you got, or if you don't hit the stars, you reach the moon or whatever metaphor
Yeah.
you
Or,
want.
yeah, shoot for the moon. Yeah. End up in the stars. Yeah.
And do you see things commonly come up that trip people up with their rocks? Is it, like you kind of alluded to, they've got sometimes rocks that aren't the most impactful thing they could do for the business. Or
Sometimes there are some things that it's funny because we use all the tools together, and I had this come up in one quarterly meeting where there was something that one of the guys on the leadership team wanted to do, but when we looked at the accountability chart, I'm like, that doesn't fall under your roles and responsibilities. Is this really your rock to do, or should this be someone else's? And then sometimes too, when you've got something big that's like, hey, it can't be done. This isn't a 90-day action item. This is like a 180-day action item. Well, how do we break this up into milestones, or how do we break this up so we know where we need to be 90 days from now or the next time we meet, and make this a really good rock.
Nice. The other thing I see people really, particularly when they're self-implementing, obviously if you've got an implementer or any form of guidance, it's going to be a little easier. It's choosing measurables. I don't know how much you see that. People get like, okay, what number should I pick? What if this number doesn't help us? This number is more nuanced, blah, blah, blah. Anything that you see get in people's way as they're choosing?
Yeah, that's a tough one too, because sometimes it depends on the industry where, I've had a client that, they're like, we don't really measure a whole lot on a weekly basis. It's more quarterly. And so it was really working to find out, okay, well, let's back into that on how we can get this. And what I'm really thankful for is that inside the Traction library, the EOS library, a new book came out called the Data Book. And man, I read that, and it is a very granular kind of deep dive into the data component where what does a good scorecard look like? What do the good measurables look like for your type of industry? We should probably have a good number of leading indicators, maybe a mix of lagging indicators, but a good scorecard, I think, has to have a good number of leading indicators, things that you're looking at on a weekly basis. And we use that analogy, right? You're on a desert island somewhere, and you don't have any internet or anything, any contact to the outside world. The only thing you're getting is this scorecard, this piece of paper that you get on a weekly basis. And by looking at a piece of paper, you should be able to tell, is your company doing well on that? And so leading and lagging indicators, having a good mix of those on there, and whittling that down to the 5 to 15 most important numbers. I've looked at some scorecards for companies that were self-implementing, and they're like, I don't understand, like, our level 10 meetings aren't going the way they should, and it's taking too long, and I don't know. And so I look at the scorecard, I'm like, well, there's 43 items on here. That's why. So like, do you really need to know all of this stuff? And it just depends on who you're talking to. I mean, data is great. If it's a data junkie, data is awesome. But for data to be effective, you got to use it. And so what are the most important things that you really need to know?
Yeah, we help people. We find ourselves often helping people understand there's a difference between analytics and your scorecard. Like, you can have business analytics that allow you to drill into nuanced stuff when you have a question. That doesn't necessarily go on the scorecard. To your point, like if you're on, I think one of the books talks about, if you're on vacation, you need to know whether you can extend it another week or come back. You need to come back by looking at that small number, or small set of numbers rather.
Right. Yeah. It goes back to the whole, when everything's important, nothing's important, right? What are the most important numbers you need to look at a weekly basis?
Do you have a favorite tool in the arsenal? One that you're like, boy, I can't wait till we get this in place?
There's a few. And the more I think about it, it revolves around people on that. One of my favorite tools to teach it's part of the EOS toolbox, but it's not even really, it's the Kolbe. It's when the leadership team takes the Kolbe, and there's different parts of the brain. It's like the conative and affirmative. I think those are the three. Kolbe like really focuses on the conative, I believe, part of the brain. And man, when we, I'll take a recent example on this. I know now when one of my leadership teams kind of gets into the weeds on stuff too, I got to tell myself, I'm like, well, we got 4 high fact finders sitting in this room. I mean, they're all 8s or above on fact finding. And, we've got myself, who's low fact finder, high visionary, and then the visionary, of course, is high visionary, low fact finding. Oh, come on, guys. Like, let's get to a resolution here. Like, you don't have to know every single thing before we make a decision on it. But once you know that, once you know their Colby, and then once we do the Colby, like once we teach that, and we already have the accountability chart built out. So we have the functions, the roles, responsibilities inside the accountability chart. Now, leveraging AI on a lot of that stuff, you can put that into an LLM and it's like, here's my accountability chart. Here's everyone's Colby. Where are the gaps? What am I missing? And that sometimes is a very fun exercise because it will populate, just a narrative. And as you're reading that to the team, they're like, wow, this really nailed where we're struggling. So that's a fun one. Another one I really like is the people analyzer.
Mhm.
And that one, it just takes all the emotion out of making hard people decisions if it's the right person for your organization. And probably the reason why it's one of my favorites is, my wife and I use this. So we used to own a superfood cafe, and you're dealing with a lot of employees. I think we had 20 employees in there, and they're all young, right? And some of them are really good with clients, but they're weak in some other areas. And it just, when coaching the employees on what they're doing well and where there's room for improvement from a core value standpoint, boy, that takes all the emotion out of it. It's black and white. It's right there. And then you add on top of that, I mentioned the accountability chart earlier. If you got a really good accountability chart, I mean, you simply ask the question, it's like, hey, do they get it? Do they want it? Capacity to do it? I mean, it's all there, and it just makes it a lot easier to have, I feel like, to have those discussions, because they either do or they don't.
Yeah, it is. I agree. That's one of the best tools. And I think like what we've got a feature that mixes, well, everybody every day is choosing their focus. Like, here's what I got done. Here's the one thing I'm focusing on next. Here's where I'm blocked, kind of a daily stand up that's asynchronous. But by entering that, they create this history of how they've been working. We find when we pair that with the accountability chart, with the rocks, with all the other tools, and especially the people analyzer, you've got a good set of data. Like, there's not a lot of room for egos to get in and start to argue. It's like, were you working on the right things? Were you making progress? Did you get help? Was there a core value that you violated? Or are you doing great and we're just going to encourage you in these areas? I love how these tools just help these things become less about my quote unquote gut feel and more objective and data based.
Yeah. Yeah. What is one of your favorite tools inside the toolbox?
I think, I got to say the level 10 is high on the list just because
Yeah.
people waste so much time in meetings and don't come to decisions. And I like the clock. I mean, even going back to my high school football days, I was in a very well-run program and everything was done in periods. Like, the whistle was blown every 6 to 12 minutes. You changed stations or whatever. It was super effective. That's what the level 10 reminds me of, you know? Um, so that's at the top of the list. I do really love the people analyzer. And I like the use of scorecard, 1-year goals, and rocks to dial in the priorities of the business and say, we've all committed to this. So you've got those things and we have a problem. Okay, let's create an issue. And so it's the interplay between those 4 elements and how those fit into a level 10. And you can bring those into a one-on-one in the same format. You can we've got a dashboard where you can run a one-on-one as a mini level 10, where you're teaching the tools, you're teaching the things that are important to the business without even it feeling like you're teaching. You're just having a discussion in this context. So the way that those tools come together to create a context for people that's simple and meaningful, I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be the top of my list for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I mean, I don't want to discount the VTO. I mean, the Vision Traction Organizer. I mean, that's That's your simplify your strategic plan on 2 pages, right? Your 10-year, your core values, core focus, 10-year target, marketing strategy, 3-year picture, like all that
Oh,
stuff that's on.
1,000%. Like,
Yeah,
so, and that, I mean, if you just say like, what's your favorite tool overall? Like that's got to be one of mine. But before EOS, I was into vision
right.
and that kind of focus. So I was thinking like, what are the unique things that EOS brings in? But yeah, I mean, VTO, I think
Yeah.
is a must have.
And yeah, and I know it's funny too because, it looks like you read a lot of books, see a lot of the books behind you. I love, consuming a lot of books too, but it's funny when we start teaching some of the stuff or I'm reading or, getting ready for an EOS session going through. It's funny when I'm reading books too, I start picking out little things that EOS does that's related to that book. And what made me think about that was like the 3-year picture when,
Mhm.
when on vision building day 2, when we're jumping in and we're really diving down and diving deep into what does this company need to look like 3 short years from now to make sure we're on track for that 10-year target. And once we go through all that, through all the stuff, we do an exercise where, the leadership team kind of sits back, closes their eyes, and I walk them through. I was like, I need you to visualize this. I need you to close your eyes, visualize it, feel it. You're there. And I'm walking them through it. I'm like, this is Cameron Harold's vivid vision.
That's
Right.
exactly. Well, so I interviewed Cameron
Yeah.
and he and Gino were in a talk by, I think it was like an Olympic coach or Olympic something or other for their, maybe their EO group. They were in a talk
Yeah.
where they both learned it and kind of evolved their own versions from what Cameron was saying. But yeah,
Yeah, I know, it's so funny because yeah, I mean, I think, the Traction was written, what, I don't know, 2012, so it's been out for a while. I can't remember when Vivid Vision came out. But it's funny because when you have all that knowledge and when you're reading some of these things, you see the parallels on that,
mhm.
and you can pull out the things that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is pretty," and Vivid Vision's one of my favorite books too, and so it's, so I love doing that exercise. It's a lot of fun.
I can't wait when we do your walkthrough result maps. We'll show you our AI powered template. It leverages some of that stuff to help you get that vision out. I bet you're going to dig
Fun.
it. But yeah, I think what's interesting to me about EOS in general, being a product guy, is EOS worldwide. You guys have really productized a consulting methodology, and not just by adding the trademarks. Like to me, that's sort of secondary. But it's taking the tools and the disciplines so seriously that then you can iterate on those and refine them. And I think that's what you see in the VTO. Like you've got to know who your ideal customer profile is, and that's your niche, in
Mhm.
EOS language, right? But every methodology that's decent says know your ideal customer profile. You've got to know how you're going to differentiate in the marketplace. We've got that in the 3 uniques.
Yeah.
And it's like working. That's what I think EOS shows, and really why what I think has driven a lot of the success is there's so much work that's gone into chiseling away or refining, like what are the easiest ways to get this, to get these pieces in place, and then how do we hammer it as a simple discipline?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what people use words sometimes synonymously, and I hear like the consulting and coaching used simultaneously too.
yeah, yeah,
And we always refer to ourselves as more of a coach, teacher, facilitator on this.
yeah,
I always think of a consultant as someone that's like kind of telling you what you need to do.
yeah. Doing a little
And I'm
more
like, that's
work.
not my job. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it's like the answer's in the room. Like my job's just to facilitate to that
yeah.
and do that. And so I think that's where the magic comes from, having that non-biased third party in a room with the leadership team is sometimes they can just see things that may not be as obvious to someone who lives it and breathes it every day, like inside the company. There's that saying, it's a lot easier to read the label from outside the jar. And so that's
I
why it's
haven't
really
heard that
good.
saying. That's a nice one.
Yeah. And
That's
it
a nice
is. I mean, it's something, it's like, it's a lot easier to read the label when you're standing outside the jar. And so by having someone come in that isn't in the jar, so to speak, they can see things sometimes that you can't, which is
completely.
good. Yeah, which is good. Which I think sometimes is almost a benefit if someone doesn't know your industry as much as you want them to, that could be a benefit. Is that they're like, and they ask the quote unquote stupid questions. I won't say stupid questions, but those questions that someone should know if they're in your industry, but they may
Mhm.
ask those in a way just more out of a curiosity. They're like, huh, I didn't think about it that way. And but there are benefits too for, of course, knowing, being really versed inside that. I mean, we didn't even jump into the whole background thing. I mean, my whole background is in commercial banking. I mean, I spent 25 years in the banking industry, mainly on the commercial business side of it. And so, we probably have similar target markets. I think when I was in banking, our target market was, companies 2 to 50 million in revenue. Very similar in EOS. We say 10 to 250 employees. I think Result Maps, what's yours? Probably 3
Exactly.
million,
There.
2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's what's fun about working with those companies is at some time along in their entrepreneurial journey, they've hit a ceiling and they've probably broken through it because you're usually when you're at that one man shop and doing stuff, you're probably hitting a ceiling around $300,000-400,000 in revenue, and you got to start hiring people, and you break through that ceiling, and then you get to the couple of million, 1 million, 2 million, and then you start hiring more people, and it more people, more lines of communication. Sometimes there's more issues. And then you're like, I'm gonna keep doing this the same way I've always done it because that's what's worked in the past. That ain't the answer a lot of the times. Sometimes you gotta change the way you're doing things to get to that next level. And that's why I think having something, a software like Result Maps or using a system like EOS will help you break through that ceiling again and continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, the way we look at it and the reason I gravitated to EOS so much is y y the goal is to make all these things that are up here visible so we can all
Mhm.
see them and create a shared vision of what we're doing and how we're progressing. Because it's easy in an industry to start, get into the nuances of the jargon and the things we know about the industry. Banking, we've got, I don't know, we've got bank accounts, we've got customers, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have a healthy business where people are growing the business for you. And having a way to visualize that and see the decisions and understand how to make those decisions and what you need to do and where you need to level up, I think is real powerful of a system like EOS and having, obviously bias, but having result maps to help you do it. You said something though that got my attention that I wrote down. You talked about having somebody from outside, not just the company, but maybe even outside the industry.
Mhm.
When I've done fractional COO work, a lot of times when you bring in the new person, you try to get them as quickly as possible to give you their open and honest and unbiased feedback on what they're seeing. Because once they start to get acculturated, you start to rationalize, oh, well, you guys aren't doing this best practice or this important practice, but I understand the rationalization, blah, 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 versus pushing and saying, hey, I know you guys have your reasons, but you really got to have this thing in place or you're going to go crazy. And we would find that within like 6 months, the new person's already kind of they're so inundated in the culture and learning the culture, they kind of lose that unbiased approach, right? And I think it can
I
be
think
really
that's
useful.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. But and we probably see this a lot when someone is either hiring, a consultant or someone coming into their business to give them, they're like, I want someone with industry experience. I just ask why? Like why? Do they have to have industry experience in this? Because I think you may get better questions from someone who is not as versed in that
Mhm.
industry.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, and I don't know reading, if you haven't read, oh, what is the Charlie Munger book? Charlie's Almanac, Poor Charlie's
oh
Almanac.
yeah, I have it.
Right,
Yep, I've
perhaps
got one of the
it's
original
so
copies.
good.
Yeah,
Oh, do you? That's all. I
yeah.
loved his idea of mental models and keeping them simple, like not getting elaborate, but then rather than getting elaborate into one field, checking things. against the other mental models. So his example, I think, is like maybe psychology is one he talks about a lot. And he basically says that the industry of psychology, as it's taught in academia, they're just kind of going down this rabbit hole of more and more esoteric stuff. But they have these really strong basic principles that everyone should know. Like if you're in sales, you should know those basic psychology principles. If
Yeah.
you're in marketing, you should know them. If you're in, like everybody should know them. And his, yeah, I'm paraphrasing it, but his basic thesis is, stop getting these elaborate theories and just focus on the fundamentals and then cross reference. It's like that's where the great ideas come from. And a great example, I don't think he brings this one up, but Jeff Bezos. Bezos would go walk around malls as he was thinking about how to develop Amazon. We had e-commerce when Amazon came out, but we never had an Amazon before. And you can get such interesting ideas from outside of the industry, to your point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this has been really great. Is there anything that just as you're going through your days and your weeks, you're like, man, I wish people just knew X about EOS or about my coaching with EOS or, how to level up their businesses? Anything like that stays on your mind or that comes up for you right now?
Yeah. I just, people that are stuck in their company and they feel like they go to work and they're either the president or CEO and they're like, man, my whole job is just putting out fires all day. There is a better way to do it.
Mhm.
There is a better way. It's a lot of the stuff that we teach. It's simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Anyone can do it. But yeah, and that's one thing I even though I know I can look at a business and know from the bottom of my heart that they need this stuff, I try not to push it because I know if I do, as our friend Jill Young would say, if you drag them in, you'll drag them around. And so it's
That's another good one. I like that.
yeah, and Jill will tell you she stole it from someone else, but I heard her say it first. But yeah,
Right
you
on.
drag them in, you're gonna drag them around. So it's even if they need something, they sometimes they just gotta figure it out themselves. And sometimes that's painful for me to watch. It's like, when you're raising kids, right? They're gonna make mistakes. Failing is part of growing up and doing things. It hurts to see them do that, but it's just part of it. But yeah, when you have as many friends as I do inside, like that are entrepreneurs and stuff, and you hear them talking about things, and you're like, "Oh, I know a solve for that." Just let someone tell the story and do that. But I do want to know. I don't know when this is going to drop, but man, if it does before September 22nd,
Oh,
we
it
gotta
will
get people
before
to
September 22nd for sure. I mean, we're usually
yeah
2 to 3 weeks, and this is, we're investing heavily in the event and getting to know you guys, and yeah, like it'll, I'd say 1 to 2 weeks.
yeah. So we got to make sure the audience knows that September 22nd. And thanks to Result Maps. It's one of our title sponsors on this. I mean, the event's free for people to come to,
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
and it is. I'm telling you, both, and I don't think I can overhype it. Jill, I know both Jill and Leonard. I've seen both of their talks and what they're presenting on, um, and so I would highly encourage any
Yeah,
business owner out.
and Jill, like if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area, I mean, Jill is the head coach, and she's been at it for a while. I've always been really impressed with how open she is and passionate she is about the material. And then Leonard just did his 750th session. And the things that he's talking about, I got to interview him on one of our
Mhm.
last episodes. He's just talking about how you can bring like really sound principles to work with you to get engagement through these tools, which whether you're using EOS or not, you're going to learn something.
Yeah, and I tell you, and for this event to be free, I don't want people to think that that's usually this event would be a couple $100. Leonard teaches. I've helped him. I've sat in 2 of his Great Boss workshops that he's done. It's an all day thing that he teaches. It's $1,000 a ticket for that workshop. He goes through a lot of the stuff that he goes through in that workshop in this free event, and so yeah, don't discount the value of it because it's
Yeah,
free.
I'm really looking forward to that. Both of them, and even when I've gone to different events that implementer friends of mine have put on. There's always something thought provoking, not to mention, I think you're going to meet a lot of great people that are interested in improving their business. And kind of like we were just saying, you never know where the great ideas can come from. It doesn't have to be somebody in your exact industry or with your exact business. It can be somebody completely different who, gives you an idea, or you meet someone through. Just going to be, I think, really high quality time. So I'm
Yeah,
really looking
yeah,
forward to it.
and then not to discount me, I'm looking forward to hearing your breakout, your 2-hour workshop ahead of the main event.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
fun,
the
man. It's fun.
I mean,
I've done this one several times. Not always strictly from the EOS bent, but it always, people always like it because I'm just helping people like, hey, here's how your brain works. Here's some things that you don't know about that are getting in your way. And let's just remove that friction for you.
yeah, yeah, so it's
It's
good.
fun.
Yeah, so yeah, I know it's gonna drop before September 22nd. It's gonna be at the Statler in Dallas.
Cool
I would say if
location
people wanna
too.
learn about it, just yeah, you can just jump into Google and type in, we run on EOS Dallas, and
We'll have a link
it'll
in the description. On LinkedIn, there'll be a link in the comments, but on YouTube,
alright.
be a link in the description. Kevin, really appreciate you, man. Appreciate how you go about building your business and all you're doing for these businesses you're helping.